Hey, folks, if you're American and went to turn on your phone and maybe wanted to search up TikTok or create a TikTok, you may have saw this screen recently in regards to the banning of the application. It says, sorry, TikTok isn't available right now. A law banning TikTok has been enacted in the United States. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned. So there's a bit of optimism here, ladies and gentlemen. What I've been saying about this incoming Trump presidency. It may look doom and gloom. Many people have been protesting. Many people are saying about this. We can have a bit of optimism in the fact that even in the regards of Trump and, being the narcissistic that he is and being that kind of character, there's a possibility that we can negotiate with him because the business acumen in Donald Trump wants to hear people out, want to hear arguments, and can maybe work out a potential deal. That looks like in the case of even here with TikTok, that most notably was going to be banned in the United States by President Joe Biden, by the Democrats and Republicans, putting forward a ban because they believed the bill was part of the Chinese agenda to mass surveil and spy and take your data and so on and so forth, which is not the case. It's not the case whatsoever. One, every other application on social media, on the internet, anywhere out there is going to track your data. So the idea that we're going to protect you from the Chinese stealing your data, from an application that was made in Singapore, that was discussed even during congressional hearings on TikTok, where the CEO of TikTok, a Singaporean man, came forward to denounce that they're surveilling, that they have representatives in China, but they want to conflate China and Singapore, which it could be further from the difference, which either shows their racial ignorance if they can't differ between Singapore and China, or the fact that this is the American educational system. Either way, that needs to be more than a nationwide TikTok ban. But luckily, this video that was produced by not Jason Lee, maybe it's, I forget the name of the guy, something Lee, James Lee, thank you. James Lee put this video together about the real implications of why TikTok got banned. And this is the conversation that people know about, but it hasn't been highlighted in the mainstream context for obvious reasons.
We need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on steroids.
In November of 2023, a recording was leaked of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, referring to TikTok as a problem that needed to be taken care of.
We have a major generational problem. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tag Lee, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like fast.
Now, one interesting side note here is that I came across an ADL report expressing frustration that they couldn't access TikTok's analytics the way they can with every other big tech company. Like, should they be able to do?
So what this refers to is narrative control. The fact that ADL, APEC, and the Israeli lobby firms and groups that funnel politicians also want to seize control of social media applications. They did that with Facebook. They did that partially with Twitter. Kind of saw a little bit out of that with Elon Musk buying Twitter, but then Elon Musk suddenly went back to those notions of we kind of need to censor certain things. You know why? And Google with YouTube. So this is all about narrative control. This is all about narrative control. And TikTok was one of those platforms that started off being kind of this outsider force to bring us these videos and bring us this information about what was going on in Gaza, what was going on with the genocide, that the rest of social media was trying to hide from us, was trying to shield from you. And since people were witnessing what was happening on the forefront in Gaza, in the West Bank with Palestinians, that is when people saw what was happening, and that scared the bejesus out of the ADL, that scared the bejesus for Israel, that scared the bejesus on politicians, and that is why they all came together for this collaboration to silence out TikTok. Because there's two things that happens in a situation like that. Either that big tech company collaborates with the government to self-censor itself, which is what you see with Facebook and Instagram, Meta, Twitter, YouTube, Google, all that stuff, or they get banned. And that's why certain countries, they banned X. That's why certain countries, they're talking about Rumble. Because, God forbid, we have a platform that actually resembles as a platform where people can actually have interactions and discuss openly about critical situations, like the genocide. But they didn't want this to leak out. That's why that Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL said, we got a major, major, major problem. Because so many of these young people are going on social media and they're finding out the truth. It's like Al Jazeera over there. Like, why can't they just, be brainwashed to the corporate algorithm?
Do that? Anyway, now we're about a month into this war, and all these studies started coming out, making claims about the proliferation of anti-Semitism on TikTok. The most notable one from a statistician and tech executive named Anthony Goldblum. He tweeted out on November 30th that a study he commissioned concluded 30 minutes a day on TikTok makes someone 17% more anti-Semitic. Politicians like Nikki Haley would then go on to regurgitate this claim on national television.
We do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17% more anti-Semitic.
Except that survey didn't say that at all, because A, it conflated anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiments, which I believe to be different. And B, Goldblum himself admitted that he made some logical leaps when he was drawing his conclusion. But now...
So, he makes a great point there in the fact that, yeah, you're conflating anti-Israel statements, anti-Zionism, with anti-Semitism, which is the projection of the whole Zionist project. The cult mentality is to do that completely, so it diminishes Judaism, diminishes Jewish faith, and the interpretations of the Torah to coincide with this organization, this terrorist organization of Zionists to manufacture dissent to allow for the genocide to go on. But also, how do you get these numbers? Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. That, a child that goes on TikTok for half an hour is going to be 17% anti-Semitic. Like, it just seems like you're just pulling random things out of your head. Oh, well, if someone goes on to Twitter, they're going to get, 11% anti-black. How do you judge that? What kind of measures are you taking to get those numbers? Where are you getting those stats from? This seems so crazy. But this is all about narrative control. All about narrative control. They want to scare you into thinking that young kids that are probably watching cat videos and dancing, people doing the twerk, are somehow going to relate that to your child being anti-Semitic.
Now things are really moving at a rapid pace. The next day, on December 1st, 2023, the New York Post reported that a group of 40 mostly Jewish tech leaders and business executives confronted TikTok CEO Shouzi Chu over their concerns about anti-Semitism and the allegedly disproportionate popularity of pro-Palestine videos on the app. One of those executives, Anthony Goldblum, the same Anthony Goldblum who we were just talking about. And from everything I understand, the meeting didn't go well in the sense that TikTok didn't commit to a kind of wholesale removal of pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel content. So from then on, the fight against TikTok pivoted from a kind of PR battle that we were just looking at to now laying the groundwork to push legislation through that would ultimately ban the app. In March of 2024, a bill was introduced in Congress, H.R. 7521, called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher.
Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
The argument is one we've heard before. TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, could pose a threat to US national security by harvesting user data, and its algorithm could also be weaponized to, quote, brainwash Americans. Now, these concerns I do think are valid in a sense, but I think it's worth noting that companies like Facebook and Google engage in similar data collection practices, and then they would go on to sell this data to China. So China is getting the data anyway. But here's where things get really interesting. You start digging into Gallagher's largest campaign donors, and you uncover a story that goes far beyond data privacy or Chinese influence. Near the top of his donor list is AIPAC, the Israeli lobby. Here's a crazy statistic for you. Of the 500 plus members of Congress, only 33 members did not receive a donation from the Israeli lobby in the last campaign cycle. So essentially, when Israel wants something from America, they usually get it. Now, another contributor I want to draw your attention to, Palantir Technologies, which is a defense contractor co-founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. Palantir just happens to work very closely with the Israeli military, providing advanced surveillance and targeting software used extensively in their war on Gaza. And one of their consultants, a man named Jacob Hellberg, was responsible for writing the bill. Yeah, it's incredible. A defense contractor who profits off Israel's war were also the ones behind drafting a bill that would, in effect, stifle criticism of said war, which is a clear conflict of interest, no? At around the same time, the Jewish Federations of North America penned a letter to Congress urging lawmakers to ban TikTok due to anti-Semitism. Not one mention in their letter about China or data privacy.
TikTok runs all sorts of videos that portray the Israelis acting towards the Palestinians in barbaric ways. And when young people see these videos on TikTok, they obviously become remarkably sympathetic to the Palestinians, and they think badly, to put it mildly, of the Israelis. So the lobby would like to shut down TikTok.
On March 23, 2024, H.R. 7521 passed with largely bipartisan support. Looking back, I was fully expecting the bill to pass the House very, very quickly and easily, because there are a lot of bills that pass the House and don't make it through the Senate. The Senate is meant to slow things down. But 1 month later, on April 24th, the act passed in the Senate, again, with overwhelming bipartisan support, and was signed into law by Joe Biden on the following day. Like I said, I had never seen a bill go through Congress with that kind of speed and velocity, with very little opposition or debate. It's wild. And maybe even wilder, by that summer, Mike Gallagher, the representative who had sponsored the bill, was now working for Palantir as their head of defense. He didn't even finish out his term. He just resigned from Congress and took a job there. I know, all of this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. In fact, the ADL did call this a conspiracy theory. The Atlantic also called this a conspiracy theory. They even name-checked me in their article. Quote, "The entire world knows exactly why the US is trying to ban TikTok," James Lee declared on March 16th. Not bad for your boy here, huh? And honestly, this would remain a conspiracy theory. I don't know if I would have made this video if they hadn't come out and confirmed their true motivations.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? Some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd note that's of real interest.
And that's where we are today. China or Israel? I'll let you be the judge.
There you go, folks. Doesn't sound much like Chinese spying after all. And considering the fact that he makes the point that every application is going to surveil on you, is going to take your data and sell it off to whoever, not even the point of any of this. Not the point of any of this. But there is the point that you have a huge political backer like AIPAC that wants narrative control, especially when they're trying to push policies like invasive warfare and genocidal tactics on Palestinians. And when people see the news on TikTok, they see the videos firsthand and can't take control of the narrative, take control to delete those videos or sway people's judgment. They're going to outright ban it. They're going to outright ban it. And that is when Facebook, bend the knee to the government. That's when, if you look at the Twitter files, they bend the knee to the government. YouTube did the same thing. All these different social media outlets get pressure from political institutions to bend the knee for these oligarchs to take narrative control, which is a violation of the First Amendment. And people will tell me, well, they're a private entity, they can do whatever they want. But when they're getting pressured from the government, from lobby firms, from NGOs, putting pressure onto big tech companies, twisting them into a pretzel for this to happen, that is a violation. That is a violation. And if they can do this to TikTok, they can do this to any application. Because right now, they're in the works of talking about Rumble. They're in the works of talking about, for example, X is banned in Brazil. And if you look at the UK media, they want to charge Elon Musk for having a social media account. Not for all the other heinous acts that he's committed, but no, because a billionaire bought a social media account they don't like. So they could spread this across to any different platform that they can't seize control of. And that is why they're going after TikTok, because TikTok is hard to control by the oligarchy, especially when it's a foreign company. But even China doesn't allow TikTok. And we're going to show the alternative that people are going towards that's actually Chinese owned. And a lot of these people are getting a culture shock from it. Because a Chinese owned application by the Communist Party, it sounds scary, but then you go on to it and people are realizing something. So it's all about propagandizing people, narrative control, trying to cultivate people to sway them and brainwash them into some sort of direction. They can't seize control of TikTok, so what do? They ban it with bipartisan support.